Long ago, in a village nestled at the foot of towering mountains and bordered by rivers that sparkled under the sun, there lived a young woman named Zuri. Her beauty was beyond compare, with eyes as bright as stars and skin as smooth as river stones. Her hair, long and black as the night, fell like silk down her back, and her graceful movements made her seem like she was floating. Everyone in the village knew Zuri, for her beauty alone would have been enough to make her unforgettable. Yet it wasn't her beauty that made the villagers whisper her name. It was her fierce spirit. Zuri was unlike any other girl in the village. She didn't smile or laugh with the other women. She didn't join them in their gatherings, nor did she sit with the elders to listen to the songs and stories of the ancestors. She moved through life like a shadow, quiet and distant, with a look of determination always on her face. But what truly set her apart was her hatred of men. Zuri didn't just ignore men. She actively kept them at bay, refusing to allow them near her. And if any man was foolish enough to try and speak to her or approach her, they would soon find themselves beaten, bruised, and broken. The men of the village had learned this lesson the hard way. Some had been drawn to Zuri by her beauty, and had tried to win her affection with sweet words and gifts. Each time they had been met with swift, brutal retribution. Zuri's blows were not those of a woman defending her honor. They were those of someone filled with a deep, burning rage. Her punches left men with blackened eyes, swollen lips, and bruises that took weeks to heal. Soon the men learned to keep their distance, and Zuri's name became more than just a warning. It became a symbol of fear. One day, Zuri went to the village market, a bustling place where people came from nearby towns to trade goods. The sun was high, and the air was thick with the scent of ripe fruit, fresh herbs, and spices. Zuri moved through the crowd as she always did, aloof, silent, and unbothered by the lively chatter around her. She picked out her vegetables, her movements swift and efficient, not lingering to socialize or exchange pleasantries with the vendors. As she was about to leave, a young man, distracted by the crowd, accidentally bumped into her. Without hesitation, Zuri's hand flew through the air, slapping him across the face so hard that the sound echoed through the market. Everyone fell silent, their eyes widening in shock. The man, his cheek burning red from the slap, didn't even attempt to fight back. He knew better. Trembling with fear, he stammered an apology before fleeing, disappearing into the crowd as quickly as his legs would carry him. The people in the market looked at Zuri, but no one dared to say a word. They had seen this before, and they would see it again. The whispers in the village grew louder after that. "She's done it again," they said. "Why does she hate men so much? What makes her so angry?" Despite Zuri's reputation for violence, many men were still captivated by her beauty. Some believed that if they were kind enough or patient enough, they could melt the ice around her heart. Others thought that perhaps they could change her, that their love could transform her fierce nature into something gentler. But they were all wrong. One by one, the men came to Zuri, each bringing gifts and offering sweet words, hoping to win her favor. And one by one, Zuri sent them away, each man leaving her house with bruises on their faces and wounded pride in their hearts. Some even begged for mercy, but Zuri showed none. The village chief, convinced that his son would be the one to tame Zuri, sent the young man to her with confidence. "She won't dare lay a hand on my son," he boasted to the villagers. But when the chief's son approached Zuri with his smile and his high status, she was unimpressed. He spoke of his father's wealth and his place in the village, but Zuri didn't care. And when he tried to touch her hand, she struck him so hard that he lost 2 teeth. He returned to his father, his face swollen, his pride shattered. The chief, though furious, knew better than to confront Zuri. He had seen what she was capable of, and even he feared her wrath. As time passed, the stories of Zuri's strength and fierceness spread far beyond the village. People from neighboring towns heard of the beautiful but untouchable woman who lived in the mountain village, and they came to see her for themselves. But no man dared to get too close, and Zuri remained alone, feared by all. The elders of the village grew concerned. "Why does Zuri hate men so much?" they asked one another. What could have happened to her? They decided that it was time to speak with her, to understand the reason behind her anger. So they called her to the village square, summoning her in front of the entire village. On the appointed day, the square was filled with villagers, men, women, and children, all curious to hear what Zuri would say. The elders sat in a circle, their faces serious, as they waited for her to arrive. Zuri walked into the square with her head held high, her face calm and composed. She showed no sign of fear or hesitation as she stood before the elders. "Zuri," one elder began, his voice gentle but firm. "Why do you fight the men who come to you? Why do you beat every suitor who tries to speak with you?" Zuri didn't flinch. She looked at the elder with clear, steady eyes. "I will never let a man control me," she said, her voice as strong as iron. "And I will never stop fighting them." Her words sent a ripple of shock through the crowd. The villagers whispered among themselves, trying to understand why she was so adamant. The elders too were puzzled. They had expected Zuri to deny her actions or offer some kind of explanation, but her words were defiant and bold. "But why, Zuri?" another elder asked. "What happened to make you so angry? Why do you hate men so much?" Zuri remained silent, her lips pressed into a thin line. She refused to answer their questions, standing tall and unafraid as the villagers murmured around her. The elders, realizing they would get no further answers from her, had no choice but to let her go. Zuri walked away from the square without a backward glance, leaving the villagers more curious than ever. As the days passed, the villagers continued to whisper about Zuri. They speculated about her past, inventing wild stories to explain her behavior. Some said she had been cursed by an evil spirit. Others believed that she was possessed by the spirit of a warrior. But no one knew the truth, and Zuri kept her secrets locked away. One afternoon, Zuri went to the stream to fetch water. The sun was high, and the path was steep and rocky. As she walked back with a pot full of water balanced on her head, her foot slipped on a loose stone, and she fell to the ground. The pot shattered and water spilled everywhere. Zuri winced in pain as she tried to stand, but her ankle throbbed, and she could barely put weight on it. Nearby, a farmer was working in the fields. He saw Zuri fall and hurried over to help. Without a word, he bent down to examine her injured ankle, trying to stop the bleeding and bind her foot. But Zuri, still reeling from the fall, misunderstood his intentions. She thought he was trying to take advantage of her while she was vulnerable. Without waiting for an explanation, she lashed out, her fist connecting with the farmer's face. "Don't touch me," she shouted, her eyes blazing with fury. The poor farmer, holding his swollen face, tried to explain. "I was only trying to help you," he said, his voice shaky. But Zuri didn't listen. Her anger was too great, her pain too deep. The farmer, knowing better than to fight back, stood up slowly and limped away, leaving Zuri alone by the stream. The story of Zuri's attack on the farmer spread through the village like wildfire. "She beat a man who was only trying to help," they whispered, their voices filled with a mixture of fear and disbelief. But no one dared confront Zuri. Her reputation had grown too fearsome, and the villagers knew better than to cross her. Despite her fierceness, Zuri's beauty had caught the eye of the village prince. He had heard the stories of her strength and independence, and he was intrigued by her. She was unlike any woman he had ever met, untouchable, fearless, and proud. He decided that he would be the one to win her heart, believing that his status and charm would melt the ice around her. The prince began visiting Zuri, bringing her gifts, fine clothes, exotic fruits, and rare jewelry. Zuri didn't push him away, but she didn't warm up to him either. She accepted the gifts with polite indifference, her eyes watching his every move. The villagers, seeing the prince's persistence, whispered among themselves. Could it be that the prince will be the one to change her? They wondered. One day, the prince invited Zuri for a walk by the stream. The air was cool, and the water flowed gently over the rocks. As they walked side by side, the prince began to feel more confident. He believed that he had finally earned her trust, that she was beginning to soften. He reached out, intending to take her hand in his, a simple, innocent gesture. But to Zuri, the touch felt like a violation. It reminded her of all the men who had tried to control her, who had tried to force themselves into her life. Her body tensed, and in an instant she reacted. Her fist shot out, striking the prince hard across the face. He stumbled back, stunned by the force of the blow. The prince's guards, who had been following at a distance, rushed forward to protect him. But by the time they reached him, Zuri had already moved away, her face a mask of anger. The prince, holding his bruised face, stared at her in disbelief. He had thought he could win her over, But now he realized just how deeply her fear and anger ran. When the prince returned to the palace, his face swollen and his pride wounded, his father, the king, was furious. "How dare she lay a hand on my son?" the king roared. He sent messengers to summon Zuri to the palace, demanding that she answer for her actions. The village was abuzz with gossip. Everyone wondered what would happen to Zuri. Would the king punish her? Would she be forced to leave the village? Did you enjoy the story? If so, please like and share the video, drop your comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Turn on the notification bell for more enchanting tales like this one. Thanks for watching and see you on the next.